Well, hi everybody. Welcome back to another Snapshots and Stories. I'm your host, Paul Owen. Kate is off this week. So in her absence, let's say we're going to talk about something a little different. And what I mean by that is we're going to cover something that we do at nighttime rather than in daytime when it comes to photography. It's the time of year where we can get out. The nights are a little bit shorter because the day is a little bit longer, but the weather is much nicer to get out and basically get under the stars for hours and hours on end. So we're going to talk about star trails today, and star trails is basically it's the ability to capture stars or star movement with your camera using long exposures. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a step-by-step workflow of how to go through and pick up stars. So before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about star trails and about how we did them. Now, you just give me a second here, and I'm going to bring up on my screen here. Let me see if I can make this work. There we go. Okay, so this basically was an outing that I did for a photography group, and they wanted to learn how to do star trails. So we went out to a really dark sky, because you need a dark sky to do star trails properly. You want to have a moonless night, if at all possible, and of course you need a clear night. So a clear moonless night in a very dark sky is the best way to get this. Now, on the other hand, you always want to have a little foreground in your shots, and that's why we're at this little beach area. So you can see everybody's getting set up as dusk is setting, and we're getting ready to do this star party. So let's just go through. So now it's getting darker. So as you can see, everybody's got their cameras set up. They're trying to get their composition as to what it's going to look like when they do their star trails and so on. And we're just mingling around, having some fun, getting ready. So I just want to show you just quickly what they were able to achieve on their first night out. So this is shot by a friend of mine, Claude Edmond, and what a beautiful capture of a star trail that he got on his very first attempt. This one here is by my friend Ian McLean, and again, this was his first attempt at doing star trails. Got an absolutely wonderful picture. This was one of the shots that I took over the body of water because I wanted some foreground in the shot, and we'll talk about why mine looks a little different than others as we go through this. At the same time, I was able to capture a Milky Way using the same camera, just turning the camera to the sky, and just with a difference in shutter speed, I was able to capture a Milky Way. Sarah O'Keefe was able to capture this. She chose to put that tree right in her foreground, which worked out very well. Again, her first time at this. My friend Waylon Simpson, this was his first attempt at it. He gets an absolutely wonderful colors in his star trail attempt. So, and this was his shot of the Milky Way. So you can see that there's lots and lots of opportunity to get out and do this. And as I'm going to show you in the workflow, how simple it is to actually take your camera and your tripod and go out on a beach on a beautiful night and get some of these star trails, because they can be so much fun. So having said all of that, let's get in to the presentation, and I'm going to go through a little presentation I put together to show you how to capture star trails on your own. So just give me a second, I'll get that set up. All right, there we go, and just make that a little larger. There we go. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my presentation screen, and there we are, star trails. So part one, so this is all about acquisition. So how do we get star trails? So anyway, you're going to find out how easy this is. This is really quite an easy thing to do. So what are they? So star trails are images created using long exposures in tandem with the Earth's rotation. The stars are stationary in space, and the Earth rotates every 23 hours, 56 minutes. This rotation is evident of us moving from west to east. This movement is not detected by us, as it gives us the illusion that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, when in fact we are turning toward the east, but will allude to the sun moving toward us. In the Northern Hemisphere, Polaris, everybody's heard of the Northern Star, the North Star, or Polaris, is the star most centered in their cameras, as it has the least movement from our perspective. And this position gives us that circular effect in the star trail image. And their complete rotation, if you want to get it completely, is 23 hours and 58 minutes, which is known as the sidereal day. So star trails. So star trails near the celestial pole. So if you look at this image right here, the star trails near the celestial pole will give you that, I always call it flushing the toilet look. You've got that one point that doesn't tend to move much, and that in fact is Polaris. And then all the other stars kind of rotate around that. Now, if you look at the one on the other side, the other page, this image here, the same page, but down in the corner, you can see that we have a lot more length to our star trails as we get closer to the equator. And so you can shoot some really long star trails going up like this. If I was to shoot on the other side, they would go down and on a different angle. So depending on where you position your camera, you will get different angles from your star trails. So what do we need to capture star trails effectively? So the first thing we're going to need is a camera. Most people have a DSLR or now a mirrorless camera. So we want a camera that we can run in manual mode because that's going to give you your best results. A built-in timer or an external intervalometer will be needed to do this. I keep going the wrong way. There we go. So here's an intervalometer. And an intervalometer, what is an intervalometer? It's just basically an interval timekeeper for your photos. So an intervalometer is used to set the intervals of your exposures. And the parameters that we deal with star trails are exposure time. How long do we want to expose those photos? The number of exposures, how many we want to take, the time between exposures, and this, by the way, of this intervalometer, you may have this already built in to your camera. So if you do, that is absolutely wonderful. Also, a wide-angle lens will be needed. A wide-angle lens allows for a much larger part of the sky to be captured. Now, most cameras, if you've got a kit camera and it came with a kit lens, most kit lenses are the 18 to 55 focal length or somewhere around there, and they're absolutely fine. Just open it up to the 18 and give your and get it open as wide as you possibly can. The wider, the better. Now, faster lenses will allow shorter exposures. So basically, when you look at your lens, there's an F value on your lens, and it's either like what you want to have for best results would be f1.8 to f2.8, somewhere in around there, and you'll get a nice efficient lens which allows a lot of light to come in, so you can gather light more efficiently. You're going to need a sturdy tripod. So a solid tripod is an absolute must when doing this. And the reason being is like wind and vibration can actually blur some of your images. And you don't want your images blurred. You want them nice and sharp as you build your star trails. And also a center hook. Now that center hook right here is something that's real important on most tripods. They'll have it. And what that's designed to do is if you've got like a bag with you, just carry a plastic bag in your pocket and put some rocks in it and hang it on that, that hook. And that will make your tripod way more sturdy. And that'll give you much better results if there is a little bit of a breeze. Whoops. And a flexible ball head. Now, I'm not showing a ball head. I'm showing a three-way. But a ball head is a nice thing to have because then you can actually angle your camera the way that you want. But either way, as long as you got a good solid tripod, that's the most important part. Now, this is where probably the most forgotten items, or the ones that people make the mistakes with the most, is they either forget to bring an extra memory card. The memory card they have might be full, or it could be corrupt, and it's always good to have another card, because when you go to these locations, you usually take a little while to get there, and you really don't have time to go back in and grab, another card because you forgot one. And spare batteries are a must, because if you're going to be shooting, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, you're going to need to change your battery at some point. So keep your batteries fully charged, because the cool nights too, because as the nighttime comes, it will cool down, and your batteries will react to the difference in the temperature. So batteries and memory. Now, dew control is something a lot of people don't think about. And what happens is, as the days are hot, what generally goes on is at nighttime they get cool. So it's that cooling down period that we start to see that the dew start to form. And we've all seen it. We go camping and we wake up and there's stuff dripping off our tables and everything. So that's dew. And that will gather on your lens. So it's very important to take care of that. And you can do that in a couple of ways. You can use these little hand warmers. And you can just basically take those and with an elastic band and put them around your lens. Or you can actually get dew heaters that'll go into a little power pack. They're just little bands that go around your lens and they plug into a power pack, and they just keep the lens warm enough, just above ambient temperature, so that you don't get dew on your photos. Because if you do get that buildup on your lens, you're going to have to keep wiping it. Or if you leave it set up with your intervalometer and forget all about it, and you don't address that dew problem, you will be without a photo pretty soon in. So make sure you look after that. So camera settings. So let's get into that a little bit. So the first thing you want to do is set your camera dial to the M mode, the manual mode. Next, you'll set your aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. So the recommended starting settings for most lenses are going to be shutter speed between 25 to 30 seconds, because remember, this is a long exposure. ISO between 400 and 800, depending on your lens. F2.8 on your lowest f value, or whatever your lowest f value is with your lens. Also, if your camera has IBIS, which means if you have one of the newer cameras, it may have the in-body image stabilization, you might want to turn that off, because you don't want anything trying to counter movement. Because when you're on a tripod, there is no movement, but sometimes these devices will think, okay, I got to be rendering something. So if that's turned off, it won't be an issue for you. How you set up your lens is quite simple. So all lenses are going to be set up the same way. So set the lens to manual. So on your front of your lens, you have an automatic and a autofocus and a manual focus. You want to go to manual focus. Turn your stabilizer off, so you have a stabilizer system here. And again, for the same reason as the in-body stabilization, you want anything that could possibly create blur turned off. So turn that off. Install your dew device, and then zoom out to the widest angle. So you want to have that. So if you're 18 to 55, you want to set it up at 18. You want your widest angle that you can get. For your focusing, turn on your camera. And find a bright star at night, or if you're doing this during the daytime, if your foreground is far away, then get the furthest point out that you can do, get a nice sharp focus with that, and then you're good to go. Now, how you do that would be on a bright star or during daylight, focus on something far in the distance, push the magnifying glass to magnify the image on the screen. So in other words, right there, this is a Canon camera, but most cameras have that button somewhere, and that will magnify your screen in the back. You're going to manually focus to a clear, sharp image in the daytime, or if you're using a star, rack the focuser in and out of focus until the smallest point of light is obtained on that star. So, and then you're going to take a test shot. If the image is clear and your stars are nice and pinpoint, you're ready to go. So setting up the intervals. Now, when you do these, again, you're going to be taking multiple photographs. So if you're using a built-in timer, set the shutter speed to 30 seconds. Set your ISO to, and again, the ISO is something you're going to have to set based on your settings, your sky, and all that sort of thing. But anywhere from, I'm going to say 400. It says 800 here, but anywhere from 400 to 800. And then set your aperture to the lowest f-stop value your lens has. In the case of this lens was a f2.8. Set the delay of your shots, in other words, the interval between the shots between 3 to 5 seconds. And then point your camera to the desired part of the sky and then take a test shot. If the results are favorable, and then shoot away, collecting between 50 and 150 images. If you just want to get a short trail. If you want to get really, really long trails, you're going to be shooting, somewhere in the vicinity of maybe even up to, 600 images or more. Now, something that I want to say here as well is you may want to use JPEG to start out. It's okay to use JPEGs for this because this is not something that you're going to have to really spend a lot of time on detailing in edits. Unless you've got a really cool foreground and you're seasoned at this, then by all means shoot RAW. But to start out, you can use JPEGs if you're new to this type of photography. The reason being as well is some types of software won't handle raw images, the software you need to stack this up and make one photo. And they need to be converted to file formats recognized by the software. Anyway, so this is a step for later use as you advance in processing. So there's different types of processing software you can use. You can use Photoshop to do this. And there's one that's a free download. It's called StarStax. And that is so easy to do. It's probably the easiest one I think I've ever seen. You basically just put your files in and away you go. Now, I'm not going to show you both of those because the restraints of time that I have, but I will talk about them and I will show you workflows for both. So let's do that. So once you've downloaded StarStax, and this is the workflow, and this virtually is step by step once you've got StarStax open. So number one is click the file, open the images, select the images, which is typically what you would do anyway. You just basically click on the first, click on the last, select them all. And then you're going to select preference or select edit and the preferences and go to the blending mode. So you can either select light or gap filling. Lighten or gap filling. Lighten is probably where you want to start first. Go to the fourth box on the top left. Start processing. If gap filling selected, make adjustments with threshold and amount using sliders to the taste. And then save your image for editing. So that's really how simple that is. It may sound funny because you don't have it in front of you, but once you have the StarStax software in front of you, it's ABC. Now here's also the Photoshop workflow. Again, very straightforward, and a lot of us use Photoshop because, again, that's where a lot of us edit between Photoshop and Lightroom, but you're going to want to use Photoshop for this. So you're going to open your images in Adobe Bridge, select and open the images in Camera Raw, select the first image, and then just edit that one the way that you want to. So in other words, if it's a little bright and you want to darken it down, you want to use some curves or however you want to adjust your image. Once you've got it set up the way that you like, then you're going to select the first image and the shift key and select all the images. In other words, click on the first one, go to the bottom one, hit your shift key and press enter, and it will select all of the images. Then in the first image, click on the three dots and select the sync settings and click OK, and the edit will be applied to all the images. In other words, that first image that you had done and got it the way that you like it, it will transfer all of that setting to each and every one of your photos, so you only have to do it once. Once you're done there, click Done, and then in Bridge, open Tools, Photoshop, load files into Photoshop Layers. And in Layers, highlight all the images except for the last one, and then open the blending tool and select Lighten. And basically, as soon as you select Lighten, it will automatically give you the final result. It'll blend all the images together and stack them for you just like that, and then you're good to go. Now I'm going to show you. I'm going to get out of this just for a moment here. Okay, how do I do that? I'm just going to escape this. Where's my mouse? There we go. There we are. And now I'm going to show you, or I'm going to try to show you stacking. There we are. Okay, so here was just basically an example of what it will look like once you have all your pictures taken. Once you have all your pictures taken, basically you're just going to click on the first one, go to the last one, hit your shift key and click on it. And as you can see, it selects them all. And then you just basically hit that open and it'll take you to where you're going to put your images, whether you're using StarStax or Photoshop. Now, the reason I'm using this is I want to show you the first image. Your first image is going to look very similar to this. So you're going to have a starry night, and you're going to have the trees or whatever your foreground happens to be, the foreground. And I'm going to zoom in on this, and you're going to see that when I focus this, all the stars are nice and sharp, and they're pinpoints. And that's basically what you want your images to look like. So, so after, say, whatever your time allotment is for your stars, You just want them as nice pinpoints. Then you take your next image, and as you put this in the stacking software, say in StarStax, for example, this is the actual process that'll happen. I'm just going to click through and show you the process of how the stars are actually stacked. So as you can see, with each click, I'm adding a star, adding another star, and another star again. So you can see what we're doing here is we're building our star stacks or star trails by adding each photo together. And I'll keep doing that until I'm at the end. There we are. So there, in that short amount of images, created this amount of star trails. So if you look right in here, this bright one that's in the center, that's Polaris. And then all the other, that's the North Star. And all the other stars are rotating around it. Now, if I had taken, a lot more images, I would have gotten much, much longer trails throughout this thing. So it really comes down to how many images you want to take. But you can see, based on this, if I just escape out of that, how many images that were taken. There was only, 3 by 3, 6, 9, 10, so that's 30, 36. There's probably about 40 images. So even on 40 images, 40, 50 images, like we said on the thing, you can actually get enough data to really put together this star trail and kind of practice your software and getting it all put together. So, so that's kind of how that works for star trails. Now, let me just get out of this for a moment. And there we go, and we're back. Let me get that clicked off. There we are. So, so as you can see, star trails are really quite simple. And the nice thing about doing that kind of thing is it teaches you a lot about long exposure photography if you haven't done it. Because a lot of us will, we have our cameras, we'll go out, we'll take a photo, click, there's our shot, click, there's our shot, get our right exposure and composition, we get it all done. But when you're shooting nighttime things, celestial things, star trails, Milky Way, constellations, that sort of thing, you're using a lot longer exposures, and a lot of the times you're using multiple photos to make up your images. So, so it's a kind of a thing that once you do the star trails, the Milky Way is actually just as easy. A star trail, you want long lingering stars. So you have those really, really long exposures. And you're letting the rotation of the sky do what it has to do. With the Milky Way, it's different in that you're trying to track the stars. So you need to have your camera actually follow the stars as they move, because you want to keep each and every one of your pictures perfectly still, because you're not trying to streak the stars. You're trying to keep a collection of photos all put together, so you've got every one of your stars are pinpoint, just like I showed you in that first image. So, so that's kind of the difference. So tracking or following the stars with your camera is done basically on a tracker. And it's just a little device that your camera sits on. You just do what they call a polar alignment. It just aligns it up with the North Star. And then you turn on this device, press a button, and then what it does, it takes the camera, and as the sky moves, it moves at the same rate that the sky is moving. So every photo that you take is going to be, when you go ahead and stack them, it's going to land right on it. Because you don't want your Milky Way to be smeary. You want it all to be clear so you can bring out that information. So, so anyway, so that's kind of how you would do a Milky Way. But you can do a Milky Way and a star trail, like I showed you, right all on the same night if you want to. After you're done your star trails, if the Milky Way happens to be out, if you're blessed with a dark enough sky that you can see the Milky Way, go ahead and turn your camera toward the Milky Way. Even just take a single shot and increase your ISO to give it more sensitivity, and take that shot as long as it can go before a star will trail. Which if I had an 18mm lens, it's going to be anywhere between 16 to maybe 20 seconds. Take your picture, and then once your stars start trailing, shorten your time that your exposure is, so that each one of your exposures has nice pinpoint stars. And you can go ahead and take some Milky Way shots, put them on your computer, and just play around with that and see how you do. The nice thing about it is it's relaxing, it's fun. It helps you get under the sky at night, because we are blessed with such dark skies here in the Maritimes. And there's so many of them to go to. To not take advantage of this and get some of these wonderful photographs is kind of a shame. And it will expand your ability to operate your camera, and it's something that you can teach somebody else so they can have the fun and pleasure of doing this kind of nighttime photography as well. So what else we want to talk about here? Oh yes, the tracker. Now I don't have one. I have one here, but it's not in this room. I want to talk just a little bit about that. So what a tracker is, it's a device that will sit. Let me just see if I can find one here. Give me 1 second, and I'll see if I can bring one right up here. And there we are. I'll bring this one up because it's one of the more popular ones that are out there. I'll just slide it over here, turn that on, and I will turn this back on so you can see it. There we are. So this one is made by a company called Skywatcher, and this is called the Skywatcher Star Adventure. And you can get these in a couple of different ways, but this is probably the best one to buy. It's certainly the best bang for the buck, if you will. And what it is, it's basically, I'll see if I can zoom in on this. Let's see if this will let me do that. Okay, it doesn't let me zoom, but in any event, so what it is, let's say this post you see here is a tripod. So you mount this on the tripod, and then this device, basically you just line that up with Polaris and just aim it at the North Star. When with these, there's that little cover in the back will come off. I don't know if it's going to show it here or not. I'll look at the pictures. Oops. No, it doesn't really show us a lot of photos. But on the back of this one, right here, this cover comes off, and you can there's actually a polar finder, a finder you can look through, a little scope, and it'll allow you to line this right up with Polaris. It's so easy. You can be lined up in about less than a minute. So anyway, that's what happens with that. And then you take your camera, or a telescope, in this case a camera, and then you put this together. There's a little bar that you'll mount on here with a little weight. It's a little counterweight so that it's nice and balanced. And then your camera just mounts on this little device here. This device, as you twist it, will allow your camera to turn left and right. And this clutch right here, when you loosen that, will allow your camera to drop east and west. So you can get a beautiful alignment of wherever you want on wherever your Milky Way happens to be, if that's what you're using it for, or constellations. And that's basically it. It runs by batteries. You put 4 AA batteries, and you can get a whole weekend easily out of that. So that's kind of a star tracker. This is the whole package. And this is the Star Adventure 2 Pro Pack. The Pro Pack means that you get a few things for astronomy, the wedge, and the bar, and the counterweights, and that stuff. You don't need that necessarily if your camera lens is small, like an 18 millimeter. You probably won't need that. And then you can buy that. That's not a Pro Pack, and they're a little less expensive. But once you have it, you have it. It's kind of a thing that you would get, and it's a keeper for life. And you can get some absolutely wonderful results with it. And I don't think you're showing any photos here. No, they're not. But there's a number of them out there, but I just happen to show you this Skywatcher one. It's probably one of the more populars. Ioptron make one, and there's a few other companies that make these. And yeah, there's the Ioptron one. Let's see if that'll come up. So it's the same idea. Your camera basically, there we go. Your camera mounts on this little ball head that screws on the face of it, which was right there. And it's the same sort of thing. So that once your camera's mounted and pointed to the sky, you're good to go. So you can get the little Ioptron one here for like $3.95. So it really, but that's not the tripod. That's basically the tracking device. But anyway, those are a couple of tracking devices, and some of the things that you'll need eventually if you want to do beautiful Milky Way images, that you can get lots and lots of them and stack them together. And it's really, really easy to do. I'll do another video on Milky Way images sometime as well. But in any event, I guess that's about it for today. If you have any questions about this, you can send them in to Snapshots and Stories at outlook.com. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about this, that sort of thing. Or if there's other things you would like to see brought up here, please do. Send it in to snapshotsandstories.com. We'd love to get that. If you have some photos you want to share, please send those in as well. And I guess for now, that's all the time we have for this week. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial on star trails, and get out there and shoot and have some fun, experiment with it. And I'm sure you'll really, really enjoy it. And till next time, we'll see you again. So long for now.